Turner, Emma Gowrie, Emma Follis, Kieran Lee, Toby Sanders and Joanne Watt at this point.
And Julie
Lemmy.
And Julie Lemmy.
Yeah. And Julie Curtis is going to stand in for all the Julie Lemmy sections, I believe, and Sharon as well. Is Sharon here? Yes, she is. Fabulous. I'm going to go on to large view so I can see everyone. Oh, it's not there as an option. So apologies. Bom, bom, bom. So, declarations of interest relating to any items on the agenda other than normal GPs. None. Okay, so we move on to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 2nd of March. I won't go through every page, but are there any comments on the minutes that anyone would like amending? So everyone's happy for those to be signed as a fair representation of the meeting. We move on to the action log, which I believe was all green. The middle one isn't green, but I think that has been done because I've seen the presentation that Kieran circulated. So is there any actions that people want updates on? Okay, so we note all the green actions. I don't have a specific update other than that it's been a busy few days, and thank you for those people that sort of got dragged into emergency meetings, and apologies for cancellations of meetings. All will become apparent sort of in further discussions later on. So many thanks for your patience, and we are looking to reschedule things for June for those that were involved in the meeting this morning. So we move straight on to item 6, the GMAS support team monthly delegated contracts update. And Julie.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll take the paper as read. I just wanted to pull out one point on it, and that's about the GMAS options appraisal. There is a fortnightly meeting that is currently being held across the whole of the region, so both East and West Midlands, because of the restructure in NHS which of course we know is being restructured in a more general way because of moving to the integrated care system model from the 1st of April next year. Then they are reviewing many of their services, not just the ones that we currently get from GMAS. So those there will be an options appraisal for the services that we currently receive through the GMAS service, and I will bring further information back to the committee once we have undertaken some of that options appraisal for the committee's review. Thank you. If there's any questions on the paper.
No questions flying. And just one quick one on from me, and noting your conflict, Sanjay. It's just the late side. Is that a expected withdrawals? Is that just the Headlands?
It's historic.
Historic. It felt rather late compared to.
No, it's historic. The applications were put in and nothing happened, and then when we were reviewing our registers, we saw they were still on there, so we were told to resubmit. They're all, to be honest, I don't recognise half of those names.
Yeah,
so
well,
they're very historic.
It felt like the historic is a good reason. I just wondered why they were happening now, because it feels like a long time ago that was actioned. Okay. No further questions then, so we go on to the the COVID mass testing vaccination update again, Julie. Sorry, it's going to be a lot of updating from me today.
Yes, yes. So the programme continues to run. We are moving into cohorts 10 to 12, which is really exciting, and well, most welcome. And we have 13 out of our 17 local vaccination sites that are moving towards that delivery. And we're working with them to onboard them to be able to make sure that activity starts to happen. And we're also helping with onboarding with the national booking system. And just for the committee's assurance, those areas, so there's 13 out of 17 LVS sites where the other sites haven't put themselves forward to be able to do the mass vaccinations for cohorts 10 to 12. We have other arrangements in place, i.e. patients can go to another local vaccination site if they would like to, or they will be invited through the mass vaccination centre, which is in Northampton, in Malton Park. So that's my update on the mass vaccinations. I don't know if I'm not sure if Jonathan might want to add anything more, and I can see there Angie's hand's gone up. Okay,
well, we'll go to Jonathan first if there's anything you want to add.
Astonishingly nothing. Thank you. It's all going very nicely. Thank you very much.
Straight into Ange then.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Julie, in terms of the second doses in care homes, I think we've got a bit of a rhythm going now, so it seems to be feeling much better. So I've just seen the numbers this morning, which are on target. We were a bit late on the first doses, so we won't see the completion for a little while longer, but it seems to be working itself into a really good pattern. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention. So we did have a few teething problems, but I think we've ironed those out now, and we have regular touch points every week, so we can keep track of those numbers, because although nationally they're looking at the capacity tracker, often the vaccinations have been done, but the care homes themselves haven't uploaded it. So it looks like they haven't been completed, but they have. So it seems to be working out okay now.
Good. And in terms of the potential boosters, is there any sort of information out from NHS yet?
No, not that I've seen.
Not that I've seen either. No. We've heard it on the news that there are going to be boosters for patients aged over 70, but we haven't had any guidance or information on that as yet. Okay, and the premises for the MaxVax site, is that a long option that we have in that building? Yes. Yeah. So we have the facility for as long as we may need it. Yes. Okay. Any further questions on vaccinations? Okay. So we move on to item number 8 and the strategy and planning updates, Julie. Well, we had to step down our OD session this morning due to, as you say, some emergency work that we needed to do. So actually there is no real update on strategy and planning because we need to do the OD session. I have got a full programme, which obviously you would have expected me to have had ready by last week, but realising then that we had to step the meeting down this morning, and the strategy planning around, how we continue to deliver the primary care strategy, the work plan that then falls out from that, and the risks associated with what we might be doing in primary care over the next 3 years, given that it was a 5-year strategy, will be played out, and we will have those discussions in the June primary care committee OD session, and then we will be able to know exactly what the strategy is then going to look like for the next 3 years and the risks associated with it. So unfortunately, because we stepped down this morning, I have no update. Sorry, mute. So bank holiday weekend, I forget to take myself off mute. Any questions on strategy? I get the feeling this is going to be the quickest meeting in history. That's no bad thing. So we move on to item 9, and Stuart, the finance report, please, and period out. Oh, sorry, Bev. I do apologise.
It's okay. I think my hand is up, but I'm not quite sure. I suppose I completely understand why you are where you are, Julie. I was just wondering what the plan was to think about the strategy in the context of the new legislation and the ICS. I mean, I'm assuming that'll all roll through in June, but are there any emerging headlines that you want to leave with us in terms of thinking about that, or is it just too early to say? Sorry, Bev, it is still slightly too early to say. We're still trying to work through where primary care commissioning actually sits, and within the new ICS. And to be honest with you, depending on how you interpret what you read,
it could be subject to well, interpretation, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, and I wouldn't like to kind of think about what that interpretation might look like. What
Yeah.
I would really like to do in our June meeting is to work out what we want for primary care, and what the GPs that are part of our group want primary care to look like in the next 3 years, independent probably of the ICS, knowing how it needs to play in. But actually, this is about general practice.
Yeah.
You know, and what the delivery points around general practice are for me.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So, Stuart, finances and obviously period 12-year end.
It is. Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, you've said it. It is month 12 is the final one of the financial year. It's coming at 445k overspent, but let's be clear, the majority of that is for technical year end, and it's related to premises and rent reviews, where we've been in discussions with NHS England to make sure that we put enough provision in to the accounts that we take no future hits. We wanted to get that accurate. There was some provision that came from NHS England. With reviewing with them, it was recommended that we increase that so there's no future hit on in-year budget, but the provision is correct. So that's the main thing. Other than that, there's nothing really to report. As such, I'll take any questions, Andrew.
So we open it up to questions, and Julie, you're on mute.
Sorry, Stuart, this is a very minor point, and it's just a point of accuracy. So on page 20, it talks about the areas of overspend, about the income protection guarantee on minor injuries. It's minor surgery. It says minor surgery in the body of the paper, but that should be minor surgery, please, if that could be amended. Thank you.
Well spotted. Be minor surgery for the minute.
So any questions? And it's worth probably just giving a view as to how that flows into planning for next year, Stuart, because having had those discussions this morning.
Yes, so obviously the strategy, obviously, and the plan that Julie's talking about will come into it. Obviously, I'm linked in now to the finance regional group, where they're obviously talking about what I would call the other areas, ophthalmology, discussions whether primary care would remain as a delegated thing and therefore requiring a delegated sort of committee still, are ongoing discussions. But the good way to look at it, related to premises, we put all the correct provisions in so that there should be no financial hit on primary care, and we're just waiting for the allocations to be confirmed. We don't even know them for the second half of this year yet, so but we're making the assumption that all are restored, and NHS England haven't said anything different to that at the moment. I'd say that is the correct assumption for us to make.
Okay. Any questions for Stuart? None. Okay. So we move on to Sharon and the quality update.
Okay, there's no written quality report that went to the risk sharing group for this time. The quality reporting, the QOF and all of the other indicators that we usually put into our quality report all started up again as from April the 1st, and the primary care web tool is now being populated, and we will be able to run our normal quality indicators report for the next meeting of the risk sharing group in June. So there will be a full quality report coming to the primary care commissioning committee in July. I don't know if anybody's got any questions about anything specific, but because we've been focusing really on infection control and the forward view information, because we haven't had any other quality reporting for the last 12 months, but that is all starting to flow through again now.
I guess, I mean, there's something in terms of what happens to baselines, because the last year being so up and down, all the friends and family data, all of the appointments data is going to be providing almost a false baseline. How do you sort of intend to reset that and give a proper judgment?
So there is some information going into the primary care web tool about what those baselines will look like. So it's only just started to flow through. So we'll work with what's going through the web tool and work with our partners in relation to the information that's flowing through. So on NHS Digital, there is some information flowing through into there around friends and family as to what that's looked like different now, because obviously people access primary care differently. So it may be that we need to just work with what is happening where it's being reported publicly to make sure that we're aligned with that and understanding what patients that are accessing primary care services feel about the services that they're receiving now compared to, because primary care doesn't look the same as what it did 12 months ago. So yeah. It's almost like we we have to think of it very, very differently.
Okay, and are there any watch points that you would like us to look out for in that report, and the things that are
I think because the data is only just starting to flow through, we're only May, and of course they only started pulling data through from the 1st of April. So at this moment in time, there's not much data to report against. So I think it's just, I mean, yes, the access information, and also as the survey that will be published, the primary care patient survey that will be published in August, that patients submitted to in January, February of this year, I think will be very interesting, and that may well give us some really useful information about what patients think of what primary care looks like now, because that will give us lots of information about access, telephone call, how they can get through on the telephone, etc. So I think that coming through in August will give us some information. The quality improvement indicators in QOF, there's some interesting information that'll come out of that and how that plays, but practices are only just starting to get their head around what the QOF indicators look like, because they have changed. So I think practice is getting used to what those new indicators are and the requirements of the quality improvement. And I think by the time we see that information at the end of the quarter, sort of into June, we'll have a better indication of what things are looking at.
Okay, thank you. Vicky.
Yes, thanks, Andrew. Sharon, just to pick up on that, if there's anything at all from a Health Watch perspective, you mentioned obviously needing to understand how patients are feeling, how the way that they access services now. I'm sure that's a conversation Kate would be more than happy to have with the group.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. Okay, any questions for Sharon? Okay, very smooth. So no items registered under the governance section. So we also have the primary care report, which is for information, but we're happy to take any questions on the primary care report if anyone has any. Julie.
Andrew, if I may, it's not really questions, but I just thought it might be helpful. There's some really good things and some good news that's happening in general practice and primary care at the minute. And I just thought it might be helpful for some members of the committee who are not part of the governing body where this goes to, just to pull out a couple of points, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. So just really under the digital technology, it's really good, and it goes back to Sharon's point, about the fact that primary care looks different now, and that we've been able to secure another 12 months of online video consultations. So the software for that, which I know is being used in every practice and is very well supported by our GPs. So that was kind of the first thing. The second thing is the implementation of the Ardens templates across all of our 69 practices. Now, for those people who don't know what an Ardens template is, it's a care management tool whereby people can complete the template. We're concentrating on the frailty template in the first instance, so that all practices therefore will have Ardens Pro. We're in the middle of rolling that out right now, and therefore all practices will have been asked to use the frailty template, and that will then also be rolled out to Northampton General Hospital, to their frailty clinics, and also to Kettering General Hospital for their frailty clinics, and also in our NHFT clinical sites as well. So therefore, what it would mean for a person, and a patient, is that people and professionals and clinicians who are looking after that person and looking after that person's care will be able to see what other people have done and have written into the care plan at any given time, and it will be live. It will be live information. Well, the last time obviously it was updated is what I mean. But for a patient that potentially ends up in one of our frailty same day emergency clinics in, say, one of our hospitals, will mean that the geriatrician looking at the information will have been able to see what the patient's normal activity is, what the GP may have put in, and also it will be used by the integrated teams in the multidisciplinary team meetings as well. So those weekly meetings. This is a game changer in the fact that this is the first time that this sort of information is available to clinicians and professionals across the patient pathway, at least in the hospital and in our community services and in our general practice services. So that's really quite exciting. But I'll just stop at that point because I can see Jonathan has his hand up before I go on to my final point.
Okay. Jonathan.
I mean, this isn't coordinated, but Julie will be unsurprised that I do want to say this is a super innovation, and I think this is a very exciting development. It's very useful, not just for things that Julie just mentioned, but actually Ardens. What also comes with Ardens is an enormous suite of data gathering templates that are not just the traditional, you've got to stick in a great load of data, clinicians are tearing their hair whilst it is wasting their time. These templates prompt the clinicians about the latest NICE guidelines, the very latest codes. It's all dealt with by Ardens, so we don't have to have a team in the county constantly scouring the NHS, the latest from NHS England when they keep changing the coding for different things. All done by them, all done and secured in terms of clinical governance by their people. So this is extremely exciting and useful. They have some bolt-on facilities with which they can provide to us to enable this consistent data entry to then be viewed in dashboards at tiers of management at practice level and above practice level. For example, PCN level, locality or neighbourhood, ICP or ICS, primary care commissioning, CCG. Very useful going forward. Obviously, it's going to take a fair old time for people to get the hang of it. And for people to see the benefit in the sharing, but it's a massively useful tool. I think we're going to be hearing an enormous amount about it over the next 2 or 3 years. So Julie, it's a super thing that's been and I know people like Stuart have helped us. Stuart Rees has helped us a great deal in getting this sort of thing properly financed and implemented. So it's super, and be excited because it's going to be really important for us.
And Jonathan, thank you for that. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but is it sort of felt by GPs that these are positives coming out of the work that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, GPs have been dealing with templates. Some GPs practices have been having to write their own templates over the years. Practice managers have been tearing their hair out to make sure that all the flu things have been done properly each year. So people have been having to do this stuff themselves for years. And to have it being done by a well-respected professional company that takes a grip of it and takes responsibility for getting it right. Yes, I mean, you're not putting words into GPs' mouths. That is what is felt. There's other GPs in the call, but it's very exciting. Not just for GPs either. It's nurses across the board, allied healthcare professionals, physios, you name it. Anyone can get stuck into it. So yes, you're exactly correct, Andrew.
Great. Good. Julie.
So just to expand on the point of integration and the fact that people need to see the same template, etc., with the Ardens, but what is also happening, and I'm so pleased about this, is that PCNs are identifying clinical frailty leads to be able to lead on setting up their multidisciplinary team meetings on a weekly basis, together with some project management support. So it does mean that actually what we have in Northamptonshire now is 32 more sessions of clinical frailty time dedicated to making sure that these MDTs and therefore the integration of other organisations such as adult social care, the voluntary sector, people are really up for this, and they are now starting to work together and working very quickly in some of the areas. So it's become quite exciting. So where we had some of the PCNs in phase 4, they now want to be in phase 2. So this is all very helpful, and it's a really exciting development for the county, and supported by the Ardens templates as well and the technology. So that's really helpful. And just on my I've got a couple of final points, if I may. So we also have managed to be able to secure 16 places for our practice nurses to go on the RCN, which is the Royal College of Nursing, ICP, which is Infection and Protection Control Programme. So that's 16 places for 16 practice nurses we've been able to secure. And also we have been able to put together a practice manager development fund. This is to be able to support our practice managers as well, which we know are an integral and important part of everything that general practice actually delivers. And so this will be around skills gaps and also OD and professional support. So I just thought it was just helpful for the committee to hear some of I know it's written down on a bit of paper, but sometimes when you bring it to life, it kind of really means an awful lot. And we have worked so hard, collectively to get to this point. I'm just really proud of what we've been able to do. Thank you, Andrew.
Excellent. Any questions for Julie? So I guess we note the great progress in that, and I think it's the fact that we're having to relook at our strategy, because quite a lot of it's actually been achieved before time, especially in the digital space, is a real positive. And so apologies that had to be cancelled this morning, but I think it will help shape the committee's agenda going forward, and maybe as part of that we look to focus on certain areas through the committee meetings as we progress. So good. Any further questions? So I apologise for it being a very quick meeting, but sometimes that is a positive thing because it shows that everything's in hand and being dealt with appropriately. So my thanks to the team in that respect. For those that have the private meeting for confidential aspects, I propose that we actually continue straight into that if everyone's happy to. So lots of nods. So we shall close this meeting. Many thanks for your attendance, and I shall speak to many of you shortly. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll need to go on to the